All right. Hi, Stefan. Thanks so much for joining us today. Could you start just by giving us a quick overview of Let's Hibachi and what you offer, who you typically book services for, and how the general process of your business?
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity. So Let's Hibachi is a hibachi catering company. And basically what we do is we bring the experience of hibachi to your home, celebrations, birthdays, bachelor parties, bachelorette parties, graduations, etc. It's a lot of fun for the whole family. And if you're at a hibachi restaurant but in your house, so it's dialed up to 10, right? It's your family and your friends, so you can let loose. And it's a lot of fun. And it's a really enthusiastic experience and interactive. And we're in about 30 cities, and we've really exploded over the last couple of years. We started right after COVID, and that's this trend that started happening with hibachi catering. And we've just grown and grown. And so we've had to add on tools to help deal with that growth and all the inquiries and requests that we get.
That's cool. That must be a really fun experience.
Yeah, it's a fun job to be involved in, making people happy.
Yeah, I love a good hibachi night out. It would be fun to do a hibachi night in.
Hibachi night in, yes.
Yeah, yeah, cool. Before you started using our chatbot, how did your customers find you and about your menu options, pricing?
Before we started using the chatbot, we basically had facts on the website that nobody read. And we had a person, as we grew, we hired a person who just took inquiries because we basically have a reservations managers and they manage a couple different cities and they're handling the reservations. And in the beginning, they were getting these phone calls, these just general inquiries. They were the same questions over and over again, right? So basically we hired a person and we created a email support questions at letsbotch.com and we created an 800 number and this person's responsibility was to answer the questions on the 800 number in that email. But again, 80% of them are just the same recycled questions just over and over again.
Yeah, what kind of questions were those?
How much does the service cost? Do you service this city? Do I need to bring tables and chairs or do you provide those? Really the same questions. And the reason why we started looking for, she was doing a great job, but the volume just got to be too much of the volume of questions that she's getting. And even if you just copy and paste, it's just too much to answer for one person. And then the other issue was she's not available 24/7. So on the weekends, I would look in the email and there would be some that were very important. They're like, oh, I want to book a 100-person party. Call me back in an hour. You know what I mean? And she wasn't
Yeah.
available on the weekends because we don't expect her to work 24/7. So we needed to find some type of bridge for that, where something that would help us with the volume and something that would help us answer questions when she wasn't available. So we were considering hiring another person, but then that's when I decided to give this chatbots tool a test pilot run.
Cool. You said that there was a lot of the same. You mentioned some of the types. What are you seeing now from a bot perspective? What's the most common inquiry that people submit in the bot?
I would say the most common one is how do I book and what is the cost? Those are the two most common, but there's probably 5 to 7 questions that we just get over and over again.
Yeah, and what a great application for the bot to handle that. Do you feel like it can answer effectively, like the pricing questions and things that it might be a bit more detailed?
Yeah. So let me give a little bit of background, like why we decided to go with FastBots. So there was another program I used at some point, and I don't recall what it was, but there was a lot of configuring that had to go on with, and it was sucking up my time. So I'm a part owner of the company, but I also do the marketing and operations. So I find efficiencies and then try to spread it out throughout the company so that we're all using the most efficient way possible, especially with AI and all this stuff. So my time is very limited and it was just frustrating me how long it was taking. So I gave up on the chatbots thing for a while. I don't recall where I saw FastBots, but what caught my eye was that it uses your own facts as one of the inputs for how it answers questions. And again, we get the same questions over and over again. I'd say 80 to 90% of the same questions. Some of them are unique, but for the most part, it's the same. So I decided on a weekend to give it a shot, seamlessly installed, set up. And I was like, okay, great. Now let's see how it actually does. But one of the things that drew me to it is that we could use our own facts. So I basically just created a link to the facts on our website and that got us started. And then another great thing about the product is I'm a big guy on documentation. Like I document everything. So we had an answer to almost every question out there somewhere, whether it was in the facts or whether it was internal documentation. So then I just took I took the facts, I saw how it was answering, and it was answering exactly how it did in the facts. And then I started uploading documents, all our documents, and then it just took off from there. Basically, in the first 2 weeks after I did that, I was answering like 80 to 85% of the questions the way that I would answer it.
That's great. That's an amazing result. And what a load off of you from the setup perspective, but off of your team.
Oh, definitely. It immediately reduced the amount of calls that she was getting in emails. Like I mentioned earlier, that was one of the big challenges. She's being overwhelmed with questions. So by putting that on the website, a certain percentage of people would just ask the chatbot and then it would take care of 95% of their questions.
Yeah. And do they ask about like how to book, what your availability is? Do they typically ask questions like that through the bot?
Yes, they do. And the nice thing about the bot as well is that, of course, not only do you have the facts and the documentation that you can upload as a resource for the bot, but then you can tell it how you want to answer specific questions. So in that first month, I would go through and I would look at the questions and see if it was answered in the way that I want. And one thing I wanted to do was to initiate them to book immediately. So sometimes the bot would do that, but now if they specifically ask a question about booking, I add a link there. So there's a call to action. So it's not just answering the question, it's answering the question and trying to get them to the next step, which is in our case, checking the calendar for availability and reserving right there online.
Yeah, that's so smart. And so do you feel like that's helped increase bookings?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Because the way people are now and the way the internet is, you're doing something, you're thinking, oh, I'm going to have this hibachi party. You start asking a few questions, you get distracted, you see a cat video or something. And the next thing you know, you forgot what company you were even on. So by answering the question and giving it an immediate next step and providing the solution for the person, hey, now, and the link is right there. You just click on it. I can't give you like exact numbers of percentages because I haven't gotten that deep into it, but it's definitely increased the bookings having that option.
Yeah, that's so great. Excuse me. Now, I'm guessing that they also ask logistical things like, what do I need to do to set up chairs? And can I do this indoor or outdoor? Things like that.
Yes,
Have you had to train the bot to answer that, or was that something that you had documentation already set up and could call the bot to it?
that was set up in my facts already. So we have so before we just have a facts section and I didn't want to have it overwhelming on the website because people see that huge thing. But then once I got the bot, I just started putting every question in the facts because it uses that as a link and it just pulls it down. So every question like that about logistical setup and tables, we get tables and chairs a lot. Do you guys do tables and chairs? And it used to just be no. And then because we don't do tables and chairs. So that kind of like stops them in their tracks, right? So what we did was we said, no, we don't do tables and chairs. But in the bot, it says, but we have a recommendation based on what city you're in. And then it sends them a link to a web page there where no matter what city we provide, we have 5 people you can click on right there that do provide tables and chairs.
Yeah, what an awesome additional service, right? It gives a little extra value too. So if they were still on the fence, now it's like you're helping them along the way. So yeah, that's a great solution too. Have there been any really unique requests that the bot was able to handle?
Let me take a quick here, pressure on the range. It pulled up right here. Yeah, I can't think of one off the top of my head. It's basically, I mean, it handles at this point, because I go there like once a week and I look and see how it's answering. I'd say it's 95% of how I would answer it or better. Whereas in the beginning, it was probably like 80%. I would be like, oh, this isn't exactly how I would answer it. And then I would take that exact question and I would put it, because it also has a Q&A in here. So in FastBot, you can put the actual question the person has in the exact way you want it answered by answering it yourself. I can't think off the top of my head about a very unique question, but it has surprised me by like how accurate it is because the first chatbot I used, it was like hallucinating and making up stuff that we don't even do. And like, it wasn't getting the information directly from us. It was just assuming.
Yeah.
So another thing I like about this is if it doesn't know the answer, it says, I don't know the answer to this. Here's the email and here's the phone number. And you click on it and it sends us, then it elevates it to the live person.
Yeah, that's really smart. And that way you're not deceiving the customer, but you're continuing the conversation.
Yeah, I think it helps remove any roadblocks. So I'm an internet marketer and I know that the more roadblocks you put up in someone's mind, the more difficult they perceive booking to be, or the more questions they have, the less likely you're going to convert. So this helps remove some of those roadblocks and make it as easy as possible. We all want to be at the place where Amazon is, where you click one button and then it's at your door,
Yeah.
right? So that's what I focus on, like how to make this as easy as possible for the customer, remove any questions, any roadblocks. And FastBot does a great job of that because, that little logo's down there at the bottom or icon, they click on it, they can ask any question they want. 90% of the time it's going to answer it the way that we want it to. And then it's going to give them the next call to action, or the next step that they can make.
Yeah. Have you tracked any metrics like customer satisfaction or conversions? Have you tracked anything before and after?
When they ask a question, asking if we're satisfied with the answer.
Yeah, and any kind of satisfaction, whether it's satisfaction with your overall service or satisfied with the bot responses, either one.
Yeah, we don't have anything in FastBot like that, but we do have a lot of automatic follow up after a party. For example, they get an automatic email 24 hours after a party and say, if you enjoyed your party, here's a link to the reviews. If you did not enjoy your party, please email us immediately so we can make it right. It's like to offset any issues. But within FastBot itself, we don't have anything like that. We haven't
Yeah.
configured it yet.
Sure. Had you noticed anything? Did you have any times beforehand where either conversions were lower than you'd like or customer satisfaction was lower than you versus after, or is that not really something that you've looked at?
Yeah, it's not something I measured directly, but I do know that there was, just by the volume of questions that we get in the chatbot, I know that there was delays, especially on the weekends, of responding to someone's question. Sometimes they're just a very simple question. So I haven't measured it directly, but I can see from the volume every day. Like yesterday, we had about 10 questions answered on the FastBot. So that's 10 people that didn't have to wait for email and wait for someone to respond, because most of them are just like very quick answer. But to them, it's important. They need to know the answer. So I haven't measured it directly, but I can just tell by the volume that it's effective.
Yeah, I would bet it's maintained a pretty high satisfaction score from that perspective. And you mentioned that, especially with the other agent that you might have been using before, but with this one, you said you had to jump in manually sometimes, and now you do it about once a week. What did that look like when you first started, and has that reduced now?
Yeah, so I haven't changed anything in FastBots in a long time, in months. So I don't recall when I put this on, maybe 6 months ago, but I haven't had to modify anything. What I meant was I go in there just to check and see if there's anything. But what I would do is, if it's a very unusual question, I would take that exact question and then put it in the Q&A and have it answered exactly how I want. So in the beginning, when we first put FastBots in, I would say it was answering like 80% right. And now it's probably up to 90, 95%. And a lot of that is because I don't know how it does it, but it teaches itself as well, like how to answer them correctly, but I guess based on the input that I'm doing. But if I wanted if it didn't answer it exactly how I wanted, it's kind of a weird question, I can literally put that exact question and tell it to answer it exactly this way.
Yeah, it sounds like the follow through that you have with building your FAQs or your questions section has really helped to feed the bot the right responses as well.
Yeah. And so I'll go in there once a week just because I'm curious. I want to see what type of questions people are asking and how much the volume is. But I haven't had to go in there and update any of the answers or questions in quite a while.
Is there anything with the bot that you would enhance for your particular business?
I would say there's things on here that I haven't had time to look into, like the live chat. I really want to capture some of these people's information and then have some type of automated follow up. So I know that FastBot has some of those features, but again, I'm super busy, so I haven't really looked into it. But yeah, it would be great to. I know they have a thing in FastBot where it counts some of them as a lead, and I'm not sure exactly how it's doing that. Is it because the person put in their email and phone number? And I know there's a way where you can challenge them, but a request that they put in their phone number and email before they even interact with the chatbot. But I didn't want to do that because I just want to answer their question. But I do want to like bridge that gap between, okay, this person asked a question, they went away, and like some type of follow up where they can remember who we are and why they were asking the question.
Yeah,
To
continue to
answer the
engage with
question, it's
them.
more
Yeah.
like I have to research what all the options that and features that FastBot has because I think it has a lot of that built in what I'm looking for.
Yeah, so just more utilization of the features that they already offer.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Now, from a industry perspective, what would you tell other hospitality or catering businesses about your experience using a chatbot for your customer inquiries and bookings?
The first thing I would say is if you're using FastBot, I wouldn't be intimidated by the setup time because like I said, I used another chatbot thing and it was just taking me hours to set it up. And it just became like a frustrating thing. I was like, I don't have time for this. FastBot, you can get going like almost immediately, like day of. Like the integration's super simple. Again, you can just point it to your fax or you can just upload a bunch of documents and it's on its way. I would say for any other hospitality business or company that gets a large volume of questions, especially the same repetitive questions, you definitely want to try it out, do the trial, and within 2 weeks, you're going to know whether it's going to work for your ad.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us, and we're so happy that you're getting great results with FastBots.
I appreciate it. I really love the product and I really love all the time it saved us and the money because we were going to hire another full-time employee. So that kind of helped with that. And we love the product.
Awesome.